Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome back to Formula Amateur, where today we are talking about a brief history of Aston Martin in all of its entities, from its time as the Jordan team to the brief moments of Midlands F1 racing and Spiker F1 racing team, to Force India, to Racing Point, to Aston Martin. We are here to talk all about what that was all about. So let's get into it, shall we? So let's start with where it all began, with the late great Eddie Jordan, who started his team that went through many name changes, but in general I will go by Jordan Grand Prix, which was the final name they decided on before the team stopped racing as an entity itself. So the team started as Jordan in 1991 by Eddie Jordan, following the team's efforts in Formula 3000. Famously, the celebrity known as Katie Price was known also as Jordan, and from my research it turns out that this was to promote the Jordan team in Formula 1, so she went by the moniker Jordan to promote that team, and that's how that name came about, if you know who she is. So Jordan Grand Prix was the debut team for Michael Schumacher in the Belgian Grand Prix in 1991. However, he signed to join Benetton Ford for the following race. The reason why he was put into the seat in the first place was because he was there to deputise for Bertrand Gachot, who was imprisoned for assaulting a taxi driver at the time, and as a result they had to put someone in, and they gave Michael Schumacher a go, and he impressed so much that he signed with a completely different team for the following race. And during Jordan's time, the only team principal through 1991 to 2005 was Eddie Jordan. So who drove for them? Well, in 1991 they were known as Team 7 Up Jordan, whose drivers were Bertrand Gachot, Michael Schumacher, Robert Moreno, Alessandro Zanardi and Andrea de Cesaris. And in 1992 they were known as Sasol Jordan Yamaha, whose drivers were Stefano Modena and Mauricio Gugelmin. In 1993 they were known as Sasol Jordan, and they had Rubens Barrichello, Ivan Capelli and Thierry Boutsen, Marco Apicella, Emmanuel Naspetti and Eddie Irvine. In 1994 they had Rubens Barrichello, Eddie Irvine and Agun Suzuki and Andrea de Cesaris again. In 1995 they were known as Total Jordan Peugeot, and they had Rubens Barrichello and Eddie Irvine. In 1996 they were known as Benson Hedges Total Jordan Peugeot, and they had Rubens Barrichello and Martin Brundle. In 1997 they had Ralf Schumacher and Giancarlo Fisichella. In 1998 they were known as Benson Hedges Jordan, and they had Damon Hill and Ralf Schumacher. In 1999 they had Damon Hill and Heinz Harald Frentzen. In the year 2000 they had Heinz Harald Frentzen and Jarno Trulli. In 2001 they were known as Benson Hedges Jordan Honda, and they had Heinz Harald Frentzen, Ricardo Zonta, Jarno Trulli and Jean Alesi. In 2002 they were known as DHL Jordan Honda, and Jordan are also the reason why DHL is known for its yellow scheme, according to what Eddie Jordan said in the podcast that he had with David Coulthard. So in DHL Jordan Honda they had Giancarlo Fisichella and Takuma Sato. In 2003 they were known as Benson Hedges Jordan Ford, and they had Giancarlo Fisichella, Ralph Furman and Zolt Baumgartner. In 2004 they were known as Jordan Ford, and they had Nick Heidfeld, Giorgio Pantano and Timo Glock. And in their final year they were known as Jordan Grand Prix, and they had Tiago Monteiro and Narayan Karthikeyan. So let's move on to their time as Midland/Spiker. So at the very end of the 2005 season, the Midland Group bought Jordan Grand Prix to become a very very short-lived Formula One team, which for the majority of the time it was known as Midland F1 Racing, and their team principal was Trevor Carling for 7 races. And then I could not find out who was the team principal for the rest of the time, but their drivers during the 2006 season were Tiago Monteiro and Christian Albers. And in the last 3 races, the team was known as Spiker MF1 Racing, following the sale of the team in September 2006 to Spiker Cars. The Spiker F1 team also only lasted a year, which was in the 2007 season. And then following that, they were sold to Vijay Mallya to form Force India. During the time as Spiker F1, they had the team principal of Colin Coles, and their drivers were Adrian Sutil, who drove for all 17 races, Christian Albers, who drove for the first 9 races, Marcus Winkelhock, who drove for the European GP only, and then Sakon Yamamoto, who raced from races 11 to 17. And then they were bought out by Force India. And the team principals during this time were Colin Coles, briefly, followed by Vijay Mallya when they were Force India. So now let's talk a little bit more about Force India itself. So Force India was active during 2008 to 2018, and in 2008 they were known as Force India Formula One team, and their drivers were Adrian Sutil and Giancarlo Fisichella. In 2009 they had Giancarlo Fisichella, Adrian Sutil and Vitantonio Liuzzi. In 2010 they had Adrian Sutil and Vitantonio Liuzzi. In 2011 they were known as Force India Formula One team between races 1 and 15, and then they changed their name to Sahara Force India Formula One team from the 16th race onwards until the end of the team's run. And this was when they had a new title sponsor. And during this time, their drivers were Adrian Sutil and Paul de Resta. In 2012, they had Paul de Resta and Nico Hülkenberg. In 2013, they had Paul de Resta and Adrian Sutil. And then from 2014 until 2016, their drivers were Sergio Perez and Nico Hülkenberg. And then in 2017, they had Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon. And in 2018 was the same situation. In 2017-2018, around that time, was when Vijay Mallya faced accusations of fraud and was then having to sell the team. And I believe he may have done some prison time, but that was due to the fraud allegations, and I'm not very clued in on that topic because that is not my area of expertise, so I'll leave it at that. And that was when Lawrence Stroll came onto the scene and he bought the team out, and from 2018 to 2019 they were known as Racing Point Force India, which then became Aston Martin. So let's talk about Race Point Force India, which was the team from August of 2018 onwards to present time. So the Racing Point / Aston Martin team got onto the grid in 2019 after completely removing the Force India element from their name, and their name at the time was Racing Point F1 team, whose drivers were Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. And then in 2020 they also had Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll alongside Nico Hülkenberg, who was the reserve driver who drove once during a time where Lance Stroll could not drive. And then in 2021 they became officially the Aston Martin F1 team, who was headed by Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel. And in 2022 it was Lance Stroll, Sebastian Vettel driving as well, but under the name Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant F1 team. And then in 2023, following Sebastian Vettel's retirement from the sport and the following years onwards, the drivers have been Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, but since then they have dropped the Cognizant name from their title, probably because it was getting a bit lengthy to remember which order everything came in. So now they are known as Aston Martin Aramco F1 team ever since 2024, and they are to become a Honda engine user in 2026. They are currently a Mercedes engine user, but they have decided to take on the Honda engine, which is leaving the Red Bull team, who is to become a Ford engine user. And the team principals during the time so far as the Racing Point / Aston Martin team have been Otmar Safnauer in 2021, Mike Crack from 2022 to 2024, and Andy Cowell since 2025. And the rest is in the future, so we'll see where the team goes on from there. And just to add a last little bit to the Aston Martin lore, Lance Stroll is the son of Lawrence Stroll, so he is destined for that team until either Lawrence Stroll pulls out his contribution to the team, or Lance Stroll decides to end his Formula 1 career. So we will probably see him still for a very long time on the grid in the Aston Martin overalls. So thank you so much for listening to Formula Amateur, and hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to check out my lovely colleagues on the Be The Change Media Network. Don't forget to check out our website, bethechangemedianetwork.com. I hope you have a lovely rest of your weekend, and please come back on Monday where we are talking all about the Dutch Grand Prix race rundown in Zandvoort. So see you there. Have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.